Hidden Treasures of the Heart, a story of love, faith, and finding true worth. Maya stood beneath the gray sky, staring at her grandmother's polished wooden casket. She was no longer the timid teenager she had once been. Now, in her mid-20s, she was a young woman navigating adulthood. Friends and relatives gathered around, sharing bittersweet gratitude for the warmth and wisdom her grandmother had left behind. The loss was especially sorrowful for Maya. Her grandmother had raised her after her mother ran away and her father vanished. Through every upheaval, her grandmother was a pillar of love and faith. Now she was gone, and a hollow ache settled in Maya's heart. Gazing at her hands, Maya recalled the memory of the locket and felt a pang of guilt. Standing by the grave, she closed her eyes, letting the past wash over her, a time when she would do anything to fit in. At 15, Maya felt invisible in the crowded halls of her high school. She wasn't athletic or exceptionally talented. At home, her grandmother's modest house was filled with love, but her parents' absence left her craving validation. Her only real friends were Emily and Lucas, two classmates whose deep Christian faith shaped how they dressed and lived. People at school called them prudish or boring. While Maya secretly cherished them, she found them both admirable and, paradoxically, embarrassing. She yearned to be part of the popular crowd, stylish, confident, and adored. Convinced that Emily and Lucas held her back, she began to drift away from them, hoping for something more glamorous. One sunny afternoon, Maya's grandmother surprised her with a small birthday gathering at home. A simple affair with a homemade cake and a few decorations. Emily and Lucas were invited, happily joining in the celebration despite their own shyness. When it was time for presents, Maya unwrapped a small velvet box and found a delicate silver locket inside. On the surface were the words, "You are loved." Turning it over, she noticed it was etched on the back with a Bible verse. "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Matthew 6:21. Inside the locket was a tiny photo of Maya as a baby in her grandmother's gentle arms. Though Maya thanked her grandmother politely, disappointment tugged at her. She had hoped for trendy clothes or makeup, something that could help her fit into the stylish, popular crowd at school. An old-fashioned trinket was not going to help her with anyone's approval. She quickly decided she would only wear the locket when her grandmother was watching. Maya's longing for popularity intensified. She wanted new clothes, bold makeup, and even a stylish haircut, but lacked the money. Then one day she had an idea. Her eyes drifted to the locket. She knew it was likely silver, maybe even valuable. Maybe she could sell it and use the cash to overhaul her wardrobe and pay for a salon visit. Maya hesitated. She felt guilty, but she couldn't shake the vision of herself in the latest fashions, finally turning heads at school. In study hall, Maya scribbled notes about pawn shops and jewelry prices, then left them on her desk by mistake. Emily saw them, quietly alerted Lucas, and they confronted Maya at her locker. "You're really gonna pawn the locket your grandmother gave you?" Lucas asked, voice low. "It's a reminder that you're loved," Emily added gently. Maya's cheeks flamed. "You don't get it. I don't want to be invisible like you," she snapped before storming off. That afternoon, she sold the locket and walked away with a handful of bills. Over the weekend, Maya bought a short skirt, trendy top, stylish shoes, and booked a salon appointment where she got highlights and a sophisticated cut. When she returned to school that Monday, heads did turn. The popular girls noticed her transformation, and to her delighted surprise, one of them, Paige, invited her to a house party that Friday night. Filled with hopes and nerves, Maya arrived at the party ready to prove she was worth their attention. For a while it seemed to work. People gave her compliments, asked if she was new to school. She even managed to laugh with the popular crowd, feeling like at last she was becoming the person she always wanted to be. But soon, Maya overheard a group of them talking in hushed voices. To her dismay, Paige's mocking laugh was among them. One girl snickered, "She thinks she's one of us now. She's trying way too hard." Another chimed in, "She can buy all the clothes she wants, but she'll still be a nobody." Maya's heart sank as she realized Paige, who had personally invited her, was part of the ridicule. The betrayal stung worse than anything she'd ever felt. Maya's heart plummeted. She realized they only invited her for amusement. Feeling humiliated, she fled the party in tears. When Maya arrived home, her grandmother was waiting, hands trembling with concern. Maya confessed she had sold the locket. Her grandmother's response was gentle. "You've been chasing approval. You had love all along," she said, hugging Maya close. "Remember the verse from the locket? For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Overcome with remorse, Maya realized how much she'd hurt her grandmother and spurned her true friends. She had traded genuine love for shallow acceptance. The following Monday, Maya found Emily and Lucas in the courtyard, quietly reading in the morning sun. She approached them tentatively, a heavy lump of guilt forming in her throat. She lowered her head. I'm sorry," she managed. "I treated you both terribly. I was so embarrassed by your faith, by who you are, but now I see you've been the best friends I've ever had." Lucas set down his book, compassion in his gaze. "Maya, we all make mistakes. We forgive you." Emily smiled gently and reached into her backpack. She pulled out a small, familiar velvet box, the very one Maya had taken to the pawn shop. Maya's mouth fell open, tears threatening to return. "We couldn't let something so special be lost," Emily said. "But how did you?" Lucas cleared his throat, looking a bit sheepish. I sold some old collectibles I had at home to help pay for it." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Maya held the locket with trembling hands. "Why would you do this for me? After how I treated you?" Emily's eyes shone. "Because Christ did the same for us. We love because he first loved us. We're not perfect, Maya, but we want to show the same grace that God shows us." Maya slipped the locket around her neck, feeling its comforting weight like a piece of her grandmother's heart restored. From that day on, instead of chasing popularity, Maya began seeking faith, forgiveness, and genuine friendship. She attended church with Emily and Lucas, learning about God's unconditional love. Gradually, she found she didn't need approval from those who mocked her. Her worth was grounded in God's love and in the steady support of real friends. She made amends with her grandmother, wearing the locket with renewed gratitude. The emptiness she once felt began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence she had never known before. Now, years later, Maya stood at her grandmother's funeral, the silver locket now clutched in her hand. She reflected on how the popular crowd had scattered, many struggling with broken relationships or addictions. Paige, who had once ridiculed her, eventually ended up in rehab. Guided by God's grace, Maya had reached out with the same compassion Emily and Lucas had shown her. Humbled and grateful, Paige apologized for her cruelty, an encounter that revealed just how much Maya had grown. Maya breathed the cool air, sensing her grandmother's pride. She had chosen a path illuminated by faith, genuine friendships, and redemption. Suddenly she felt a warm presence behind her. Emily and Lucas were there, eyes filled with compassion. They had journeyed with her through every heartache, and they remained by her side even now. Maya lifted the locket and whispered, "Thank you, grandmother, for teaching me what love really means." Together, the three friends walked from the gravesite, stepping into a future bright with hope. The precious locket nestled against Maya's heart, a daily reminder that she was and always would be deeply loved.